Geez, I really should have cleaned the fingernails first. Click the links to support the channel or send your Comicsgate project in if you want some editing. I'll do a public video and a more detailed private one if I've got time. I want to thank Triple J, Omega, and all the others who have sent me comics. I don't deserve it. I know that. So this jerk-off attacks an 8-year-old kid and then brags about it. How did he think he looked good in this exchange? I know some of you hate EVS and some love him, but an 8-year-old kid is just a dumb kid. No offense, we were all dumb 8-year-old kids. Most normal people know not to talk about someone's family, especially not a kid. But that isn't really the issue. Everyone can have a bad day, but to brag about being an asshole years later is insane. And actually, someone in here makes a pretty old joke about the kid not being, you know, the father not being the father of the kid, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, okay, obviously, that's a pretty old joke about the kid being a bastard. That's really low-grade humor. I mean, it's so obvious, it's so dumb, it's not that offensive anymore, but it's so petty, it's so childish, and the fact that people get likes over that is, I mean, that's what scummy people do. You know, the ad hominem thing, attack the argument. If you don't like somebody, you don't like them for reasons, but you don't need to say that their wife had cheated on them and the kid is not theirs. That is a really scummy stuff. You're not the good guys when you talk about somebody's family. You're not the good guys anymore. You've lost whatever moral high ground you might have had. And there are very real criticisms for everybody. I mean, you got real criticisms for anybody who's been in the industry for a long time. They're going to have interactions, and they're not always going to be the good guy, you know. So you can criticize EVS or anyone you want, but you talk about somebody's wife and kid, ooh, you're a scummy person to do that. What is even more insane is that other people, including Ren from this, thought it was a worthy bon mot. Wow, you really dunked on that 8-year-old kid. For some reason, the SJWs hate his guts. Because he's an asshole who draws silly comics. Well, that describes 90% of the comic industry. The 10% of the cool guys are in Comicsgate. So when I say I hope that Cyberfrog hits $1 million, I absolutely mean it. Partially to laugh at the reign of the soy boys who are PMSing, and partially because he's making a product that people want, and he is selling it to them. It just isn't that deep. I hope Preston Poulter's White Lily comic, Doug's Bigfoot Bill, Mike's Lone Star, JDA's Robotoad, even Nasser's book, I hope they all do well. I hold zero beefs with anyone in Comicsgate or associated with it, because to hold grudges over misunderstandings is just petty, right? Laughing out loud. Or maybe shake my head. There seems to be a lot of head shaking on Twitter. I made a joke on Twitter that I immediately screen capped because I know it's going to get me kicked off again. I almost felt bad about jokes and such poor taste, but Twitter is pure cancer anyway. I was going to go into SJW comic types who show their rear end on Twitter, but while I do think they're horrible people, I also think Twitter brings out the worst. It also allows you to catch raw news stories without the media to remove the wrong thing. Thanks, political commissars. So Tommy Lee Edwards blocked me because I called him an asshole. Hey, don't get me wrong. If a kid wants something from you but you're busy, tell them to politely piss off and get in line like everyone else. The kid isn't a snowflake. You don't need to be a helicopter parent. And, you know, getting a little bit of feedback is not going to crush them. And they need to learn about waiting in line and acting civilized and that kind of thing. I mean, be nice but firm. That isn't the problem. But using a story from a decade ago to try to insult somebody makes you look like a crazy asshole. Ethan is an asshole. I'm sure his kid is also a pain in the ass. But still, an 8-year-old is just an 8-year-old. Wow, you got 700 likes for that comment. Finally got some real TP. Now I can stop using all those old EVS comics. Classy. That is really classy. Scatological humor. That's something else I'm really not a fan of, is scatological humor. Base humor, dirt humor, just the lowest of the lowest. Like there's no creativity, there's no intelligence in that. It's just, you're just making scat jokes. Something is bad, so I compare it to dirt. That's that's not very... I don't know if he's a writer. I guess he's an artist, not a writer, so he doesn't have to be intelligent. I didn't even plan that. That just came out. Oh, I love my own jokes. The idea that you would even talk about somebody's 8-year-old child is mentally deranged. A lot of people caught Trump derangement syndrome, but since Trump is too far removed from their sphere of influence, they take it out on EVS, who, don't get me wrong, can be an occasional asshole, but he isn't a monster. There are people who want him dead because he's a jerk, but mostly because he is a right-of-center jerk who is in their domain, the sacred world of alt-left comics. And what's worse is he is good at it. Very good at it. I like to admit I am not familiar with Tom Edwards. I'm sure he's great, but let me remind him, it doesn't hurt to be subtle. If you want to take a fun little dig at EVS, show his art and say, beautiful work, it's a shame EVS is such a twat. Or, I met EVS at a con 10 years ago, great artist, but sort of a prick. It shows that you're angry, but it leaves the door slightly open. When you publicly tell a story about somebody's kid, it closes the door for years, and it shows that you don't know where the line is. The hard line is not to talk about a child, ever. Sometimes the best thing to do is walk things back. Say something like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I lost my temper because you're such a colossal prick fuck, but that was over the line. I deleted it, and I'm sorry about that. Anyway, he is just another guy who blocked me. This is my alt account. He is in such august company as, well, Dan Slott, Ron Mars, Nasser, the Comic Book Hut, Micah, and probably a bunch of other pussies. Whatever, unblock me or not, that's your business. No hard feelings. I still hope your projects do great, and if I am ever in a position to plug your stuff, let me know, and I will. I guess you'll have to email me because, you blocked me on Twitter, LOL. So, Camilla Zhang, this is not Camilla Zhang, this is Lombardi, Marco Lombardi. Another douche canoe, pretty much. Camilla Zhang, political commissar, helps destroy business and is oh so very proud of herself. Something, something stunning and brave. Imagine you're running a business and you hire somebody to promote crap that doesn't sell over items that do sell. Because that's what Camilla Zhang did. She promoted ultra-low-demand LGBT, don't forget the plus bigot comics, in place of high-demand comics. That behavior costed her company money, so why do it? Because they're communists who want to promote degeneracy by pushing a narrative. The truth is, the best way would just be to let everybody sell their wares, be a platform, not a publisher. Or I have that backwards. And let the market decide what they want. The best products will rise to the top, or at least the most in-demand products. And over time, the best products will rise to the top. It's a simple concept of staying out of people's way and letting them make up their own minds. Because, they're adults. If people want to buy Lone Star, then just let it happen. Lone Star had a character fighting Mexican gangs. That's a very real problem. But Kickstarter said that they are a marginalized and oppressed community, i.e., the goal of parasites like Camilla is to destroy America. And she can't allow a comic to bring attention to the gang problem, because then people may decide to try and get rid of the gangs. But since these folks vote blue and they have high birth rates, Camilla can't allow a comic like Lone Star to go forward. I know it sounds a bit convoluted, but when you have seen 1,000 examples of these genocidal people on Twitter, you will realize that many of those tinfoil hat types were onto something. I know the other Comicsgate channels are laughing at her behavior, but they aren't going below the surface. The Fourth Age knows what's going on, but while he is excellent, he doesn't have the time to cover every issue and focus. Okay, here's an example of a little smarter insult, even though Ron Mars also has me blocked on my other account. The kid walked over his table and was a, snot-nosed little brat like most of us were as 8-year-olds. It says, maybe the kid just wanted to see what good art looked like. See, that's a clever dig. You're complimenting this guy, Lee Edwards, and you're taking a little dig at EVS. And the thing is, it's like, that's not a dig that really stings, because everybody knows EVS is a pretty solid artist. I'm not as familiar with Tommy Lee, but it's a little bit more clever than just saying, using harsh language he's not using harsh language about this 8-year-old kid, but he's using it around. Like, you don't even want to, like, obviously never say something mean about an 8-year-old kid, but you don't even want to have a surrounding conversation that is kind of like for adults around 8-year-olds with 4-letter words, that kind of thing, because it's just creepy. It shows like the line to you is very unclear. Like, you're willing to do, you're so filled with rage that you will do anything to dunk on this guy's kid. And he says, Kidster says, this tweet, what made you think it would make you look good? Yeah, Tommy Lee Edwards is, you done effed up, bub. Yeah, you did. I would have walked that statement back after a day. You had a day. You had a day to think about it, and you still didn't delete it and at least point out some sort of apology. Yeah, I just want to point out how funny all the dogpiling is while they whine and cry. Comicsgate isn't a hate group. Comicsgate's not a hate group, but I think the SJWs do have a lot of hatred. Oh, and no, Comicsgate guys aren't acting tough, and we don't have thin skin. You talked about somebody's 8-year-old child. Dunking on an 8-year-old is a weird flex, but okay. Let me get to the end of it. Oh, God, there's a lot of these tweets.